Adam, the whole country has been watching this Epstein scandal play out. We watched as Donald Trump sued the Wall Street Journal, Rupert Murdoch, News Corp for $10 billion after the Wall Street Journal reported about the existence of a birthday card to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday that Donald Trump wrote that Trump swore up and down did not exist. Lo and behold, just released to the House Oversight Committee was the exact letter that Trump staked $10 billion on this idea that it was non-existent. So as far as the lawsuits are concerned, what happens now? What are the implications of basically lodging a lawsuit, filing a lawsuit that the reporting and this tranche of files disproves the legitimacy of all in one fell swoop?
Well, one of the most astonishing aspects of this, Brian, is that the White House is already saying that they're going to continue to pursue the litigation. And they're still claiming that this letter is not genuine. Now, even though this came from Epstein's estate in a subpoena to Congress, that we've all seen it. And not only is that the case, the Wall Street Journal, when they published this letter today, they did a handwriting analysis and showed that it was entirely similar to letters that Trump had written to George Conway and Hillary Clinton in the same signature, same typeface. So if they keep pushing this in federal court, and I haven't seen anything on the docket, maybe this is just bluster from the press secretary. There's definitely folks wondering in the legal community whether they will be courting sanctions. If that were to happen, the Wall Street Journal would have to file a sanctions motion and it would be adjudicated. And I will say there's some precedent of this happening in Florida because remember, Trump and Alina Habba were sanctioned for filing a frivolous lawsuit in federal court in Florida not all that long ago.
Is this a situation where the judge will be able to see all of the overwhelming evidence against Donald Trump, whether it's the handwriting analysis that they did, judging his signature on this Epstein piece against his signature in numerous other instances? Like, is this something that the judge is going to be able to definitively rule on at the end of the day?
Absolutely. I mean, the Trump administration is trying to, Trump himself has thrown down the gauntlet. He has put a federal lawsuit, and that lawsuit makes certain claims like there is no such letter. Now they're going to have to explain why a 200-plus page birthday book from Jeffrey Epstein has this letter, that it was in the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. That's the source of this letter that has now been public. It was given to Congress by a subpoena. How does he have an explanation for this? Because a court of law isn't Twitter. It's not X. You can't just say that fake news, it isn't real. You're going to have to provide some sort of explanation as to why the estate of Jeffrey Epstein had his signature on this letter with a typeface that he commonly used in the early 2000s. And a kind of flat denial isn't going to cut it. There are going to be depositions. There's going to be testimony under oath if it even gets that far. And think about how through the looking glass we are. Not only is he claiming that all of this, the provenance of the letter being in Epstein's estate, turned over to Congress, everything looking like his signature, looking like his typeface, being written in a style and language that he has been known to use. All of those details, he is claiming that the Wall Street Journal, because this is a standard for defamation, that they knew or should have known that what they were writing is false. So he's going to have to show not only that who are you going to believe, me or your own lying eyes?
Yeah.
He's also going to have to show that all of that is a $10 billion defamation suit.
Right.
And it's getting more absurd by the minute.
Adam, can you talk about who is responsible when somebody files a lawsuit like this? I know that you had briefly touched on the prospect of sanctions, and of course we don't know whether sanctions are going to be on the table. It depends on what the attorneys for the Wall Street Journal opt to do. But is it true that if an attorney decides to bring a completely baseless case like this to court, then that attorney, it's not just Trump who's putting himself on the line. It's actually the attorney representing him in court who's also putting himself and hers or herself and their legal license on the line as well. Is there some legitimacy to that claim?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we don't need to speculate. Alina Habba
Right.
had
Right.
been sanctioned. She was sanctioned by a federal judge for filing that infamous racketeering lawsuit, claiming that everyone was in cahoots to make Trump look bad through the Russia investigation. That was slapped down by a federal judge, and Habba and Trump were forced to pay nearly $1 million. So there are risks in making bogus claims to a federal judge.
And, it's not just Alina Habba. We've actually seen like a whole tranche of attorneys either lose their law licenses. I mean, Rudy Giuliani is not going to be able to practice law anymore. I believe he was disbarred in both D.C. and New York, or he's in disbarment proceedings right now. We've seen a number of other attorneys as well suffer this same fate. And I think the only thing more pathetic than watching these attorneys who've sold their souls to Donald Trump lose everything as the result of that is the fact that there is a whole new line of attorneys who are willing to do the exact same thing, thinking that somehow they'll be special, thinking that somehow Donald Trump is going to treat them differently, despite the fact that everybody who loses their political convenience for him eventually gets thrown under the bus. We've seen it happen from everybody from his own personal fixer, Michael Cohen, George Papadopoulos, Gordon Sondland, his EU ambassador and longtime donor. We saw it happen to Kayleigh McEnany. So any of the Ronna McDaniel was another one who took all the blame for these extensive losses in the 2022 midterms because he needed somebody to drop all of the blame on for that. And so in all of these instances, we watch these people, I guess, drunk off the prospect of proximity to power, align themselves with Donald Trump only to watch their own job prospects, their own future basically evaporate as the result of their allegiance to him.
Absolutely. I mean, after the 2020 election, there was a parade of attorneys losing their licenses by filing bogus claims of election fraud. And remember, a lot of these attorneys would go out in the public eye saying there's a giant fraud upon the public, saying massive conspiracy theories about voting machines, Dominion, Smartmatic, you name it. And then they'd go into court and say this is not a fraud case. Here you have Alex Brito, the attorney who filed the lawsuit in Florida against the Wall Street Journal, making a claim that the letter didn't exist. Now you have the letter being submitted pursuant to a subpoena by Jeffrey Epstein's estate to Congress. It is out there. Everyone has seen it. And it's not just the isolated letter. It's part of a more than 200-page book, many parts of which have not been, the Wall Street Journal, when they broke this story, they reached out to people who weren't Trump, who submitted the letter, and they didn't dispute it. The only one who's disputing it is Donald Trump, and those denials get more farcical by the minute. So to your point, Brian, yes, a lot of people have lost their careers. They've lost their licenses on this altar. They have gotten sanctioned, and it will be very interesting to see where this case goes from here, because you have Caroline Leavitt claiming they're going to pursue this litigation. But I am very curious to see what will actually happen on the docket. I am very curious to see whether Alex Brito will continue to insist, as he did in the initial filing of the lawsuit, that this letter doesn't exist now that we've all seen it.
Adam, this is obviously all straight conjecture, but I'm curious what you think happened here. For a lawyer to go into court and argue that something doesn't exist, do you think that it was Trump who told him, swore up and down that it didn't exist, knowing full well that, in the back of his mind, he clearly knew that it existed because he created it and signed it with his own hand? So do you think that the victim here was a completely unaware attorney who was just kind of thrown to the wolves, or do you think that this was a more wholesale effort to just obfuscate reality by digging in hopes that the Wall Street Journal wouldn't release it or didn't have it?
Well, I think it's a very good question that someone really ought to ask Alex Brito at this point. He signed his name to this lawsuit
Yeah.
that made those claims, and it'll be interesting what pans out in court. I will say this: one thing, if you really look into Todd Blanche's interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, a good portion of the interview, he's going over and over with her about this birthday book. And toward the very end of the interview, it's very strange. He chooses to end this interview by asking her about the location of the birthday book, where it might be. It's very possible, like to your question, Brian, and I think this might hint at an answer. It seems in that interview between Blanche and Maxwell that he's trying to get information about the existence of it. It's quite possible that they didn't realize that this was in the possession of Epstein's estate. Now, of course, it was subpoenaed to that Epstein's estate was subpoenaed by the House committee after one of the attorneys for Jeffrey Epstein's victims, Brad Edwards, went on, I believe, the Lawrence O'Donnell show, saying that he believed this book was in their possession. So it shows the danger of staking out that kind of categorical claim about the letter. Maybe they were confident that it didn't exist because they may or may not have had a full copy of the entire birthday book in the Department of Justice, and they did not know its whereabouts. But now we know where it was. It was in the possession of Jeffrey Epstein's estate, and it was transferred through a subpoena. It was provided to the House Committee on Oversight, and now it's public.
Well, we will, of course, stay on top of this. As soon as there's any updates on this story, we'll, of course, have you back on. Adam, for those who are watching right now, if you're not yet subscribed to All Rise News, it's the outlet that Adam founded here to focus on everything legal news. So highly recommend, if you are not yet subscribed and want to support fearless independent journalism and support the work that Adam does, please make sure to sign up. I'm going to put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. If ever there was an outlet to support, this is one that I highly, highly, highly recommend. Adam, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Brian, as always. Always a pleasure.